All right, so we're back here in the saddle. Yep, this is not going to be easy. This isn't so much snow as it's ice, and so it's kind of slick. Maybe that's why it's still hanging around. Again, the temperatures have been very warm this week. It basically started to warm up kind of mid last week. We started getting some sun and some warm temperatures, and it's been pretty much gorgeous this entire week. And apparently, according to the forecast, this week we're supposed to hit temperatures in the high teens, possibly in the into the 20s. So that should be interesting. It's almost like kind of flicked a switch. We went from this lousy weather into kind of almost instantly into spring. But mind you, again, it is May, so this is what we're supposed to be seeing at this time of the year. You can see as we get into the more open areas here, the snow disappears. All right, so basically what's happening here is it's almost like we're going from station to station to station. So just on the other side of the Black Sturgeon Bridge there was a station or a stop called Everard, which we talked about in our last episode. Coming up, we're going to be hitting the station at Coughlin, and then at the end of this exploration, which again we're going to be doing later next week, we are going to get to Herkett, which is another stop on the line. So the first one that we're going to come up to here, or sorry, the middle one, I guess, is Coughlin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom you ahead here a little bit. So just enjoy the warm spring weather and the patches of snow while I kind of bump along on the grade here. So here you can see, you don't see these very often. So you can see that there's a actually there's a spike there, but there's a bolt from the rail connector with the or part of the bolt with the nut on it. So here we're coming up to the start of the siding at Coughlin. So this was an original station on the line, and I use station in quotations here because really there wasn't much here other than the siding. And so basically you can see the start of the siding here. Coughlin was actually one of the larger sidings. Coughlin was not its original name, so when they were sort of proposing the line, the name was Dalzell. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'll put that up on the screen so you can have a look at that. Now, I saw this last fall, so as I mentioned earlier, I did come here last fall and we did film part of the episode. It was actually the last hike that we did, or the last kind of real exploration, because it was the beginning of November, and I think it snowed the next week. And so what we have here is, you can see this pipe sticking up out of the ground. And the reason why it's interesting is because I've seen in the past, so this is the beginning of the siding here, I've seen in the past these sort of pipes being used for the sign for the flanger. And so on the siding, basically you'd have another set of rails, so you would have a flanger sign, obviously to alert the operator, you know, to pull up the plow for the extra set of rails. What's interesting is the pipe, the more modern ones have the proper sort of signpost metal. This just looks like a piece of pipe, and was suggested by one of my regular commenters on social media, John, that some of these pipes that were used for these signs were old locomotive boiler pipes. So it does look very sort of interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to jump up on the bike here and start working our way through the siding here at Coughlin. All right, so back on the bike here. It seems to be working out okay. Might have to make some tweaks here and there as I kind of get used to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip you ahead a little bit until we get to our next stop here at Coughlin. Here again, you can see the siding very, very well pronounced. And again, this siding was one of the bigger ones on the line here. You can actually see a couple of broken Dominion 42 insulators and some pegs from the telegraph pole. There's actually one over there too. There's actually pegs all over the place here. There's another insulator there, all sort of busted, and there's glass all over the place. And more pegs. As I was saying, this was one of the bigger sidings on here, and one of the probably more well-used ones, simply because it was a fairly large siding. Okay, let's zip you ahead here. All right, so we'll hold up here for a second. So somewhere around here is supposed to be milepost 139. The markers in this area were either pulled up or were taken by people. I've seen very, very few milepost markers in this area. Last fall when I was here, I searched quite diligently to see if I could find the marker. I'm sort of scanning the brush here just in case I may have missed it. So milepost 139 is basically the mileage on the Kinghorn line, and so the mileage for the original lines, which we'll talk about shortly, the Canadian Northern Railway Nipigon Subdivision and the Canadian National Railway Dorion Subdivision, were less. You have to subtract 49.7 miles. And so that becomes milepost 89.3, I think. I'm trying to do the math in my head here. And so right up here is our first sort of big stopping point here. So we're coming up to where the station, quote unquote, was here at Coughlin. And the really big feature here is the fact that Coughlin had one of the very, very few turning Ys on this line. So if you're not familiar with what a turning Y is, and Y is spelt W-Y-E, I'll put that up on the screen. And so essentially what a Y is, and you can actually see the beginning part of it here. So it starts here. And again, good thing we came last fall and checked this out. So basically a turning Y would be like kind of an inverted Y. I'll try to put a picture up on the screen. So an inverted Y with the open ends, you know, touching the rail line. And what that basically allows happen on the rail line. It allows locomotives to change direction, to reverse, without using a turntable or anything like that. And so you will find them, you know, kind of scattered here and there on the rail line. So on this line, basically, on the original line, so the Nipigon subdivision, the Dorion subdivision, there was one at Jellicoe, there was one at Nipigon, and basically there was one here, and there was one at Port Arthur. So the one here is kind of a bit of an oddball one, because it's sort of in the middle of sort of nowhere. It's kind of a bit of an odd spot. And what's interesting about it is there was kind of a bit of a mystery as to when it was used. So I'm going to flash a couple of timetables up on here. So obviously it was here when the line was built. So when the line originally opened, so you know, I'll show you a 1916 timetable and you'll be able to see the Y marked on there. The question is when it disappeared. And so the date of its disappearance, the last year it was used, was 1937, because on the 1938 timetable, it's not there. And what's interesting is a gentleman that I know who worked for CN, Greg, give him a little bit of a shout out. He sort of theorized that, you know, even before we kind of knew the exact date, that the Y was taken out of use when they built the spur down to the paper mill in Red Rock in 1937. And as it turns out, he was exactly bang on. Now, what's challenging about this is I had no idea where this was located. It's not on any maps that I know of. And even looking at satellite photographs, it was very difficult to see anything. So I kind of knew it would be somewhere around where the station was. And again, I came here last fall to try to find it. And sure enough, I was able to locate it. And I'm going to show you a picture here of the overlay of my GPS data on top of a satellite map. And you can see it just basically, it's almost scary how accurate it shows up. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to explore this turning Y and then get back to our exploration of the grade.